Hey everybody, I'm Robert. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome down here to the studio. You're Tier 1. I blew up my GR Yaris motor. That's where we're at. Figure that I will take you through the story of what I've done so maybe you can learn something from it. The takeaways are, for those of you who don't want to watch the whole video, I missed a shift. I over-revved the engine. If you're buying a Yaris, I don't think you need to worry about that unless you do the same. I don't believe at this moment that this is a inherent failure or what would you say, weak point of the car. It simply was a mechanical overrun that happened on the racetrack. So where do we begin? I was on the track with the GR Yaris on Saturday. It was a beautiful day. It was the start of the Nürburgring's 2021 season. We were all excited. The weather was beautiful. The birds were chirping. Everything was, the stars were aligned, beautiful weather, etc. We went out for a first lap. Tom and I, we had a very nice lap. We went out. I enjoyed the car. I was having a lot of fun with it. It was very playful. It was engaging. We had just put the suspension on it. We just did the alignment, had the AR1 semi-slick tires on it. It really was working nicely. And we had a great first lap. You can see that actually in a video that I did on Saturday. And I went back to Apex. I said, okay, cool. Had a lot of fun. This was really an enjoyable lap. Dyana, the general manager of Apex, I said, would you like to jump out and go for a lap with me? The way things go down there, we get busy. She doesn't get to get out of the office as much as maybe I'd like her to or she'd like to. So she said, yeah, Robert, well, let's do it. Let's go check out the Yaris. And we go out and we're actually talking, weren't even pushing, weren't even sending it. And I went from fifth gear down to second gear. As I'm letting out the clutch, I could feel the resistance was too much. It was forcing a mechanical overrun. Right as I noticed that the friction was too much, basically too much engine braking, I pushed the clutch back in before letting it all the way out. But that was not before the engine did go over red line. Now, for those of you that say, shouldn't there have been a rev limiter that stopped this? The answer is no. There's no way to stop a mechanical over rev once you have engaged the gears. It's not possible. I will make an entire video about what is a misshift, what is over revving the engine, and why can a computer not stop that short of a mechanical lockout on a gear. So that's something we're going to take advantage of and do an entire video on. But for this video here, you need to know that I over revved it and there was no way for the computer to stop it. It was all done by me. So after that, I push the clutch back in. I do a couple free revs just to make sure that there's no knocking. There's nothing obviously damaged in the motor. I'm like, okay, this sounds good. I pop it back in gear. I do a couple power pulls. Mind you, we're on the racetrack doing this and everything is good. I get back to it, I power back in, and away I go. Finish what was another amazing lap. That was so insignificant to the lap that I don't even remember exactly where I was when it happened, because it wasn't a 20,000 RPM zinger. It was just enough to obviously go over red line. Now, Dyana gets dropped off. I go back out and I have more fun. I do 5 more laps in total from the time that I over revved it, and the car had full power the entire time, was playful the entire time, never made a noise, never missed a beat, never had a check engine light, nothing. It was on point. So I thought, hey, I dodged a bullet here. My tier 1 reflexes kicked in, saved the day, didn't over rev the engine too far. It gets down to -7 degrees overnight. I start the car up in the morning. I'm getting ready to go out and do a warm-up lap. Misha fires up the Cayman GTS. He's going to drive that. I'm going to drive the Yaris. We get to the gate. I think I let the car warm up a good 10 to 15 minutes. We get to the gate. Of course, I'm tier 1. My cameras are rolling. Misha forgets his SD card. Rookie mistake, but you know what? I'm bringing him up through the ranks. He's going to get there one of these days. He'll be with me, cameras rolling. Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
My SD card.
Huh?
I forgot my SD card for the GoPro. We'll do second lap anyway.
Okay guys, I'm Robert, and that's Misha. He forgot his SD card for his GoPro. That's okay. This is just a warm-up lap anyways. Luckily, I got the footage. We get on track and I'm talking. The day before, I was running in sport mode all day because sport mode is 50-50. And I'm like, man, how am I getting, a little bit of power oversteer coming out of the Apexes in 50-50 mode? When I switch it to 30-70, this thing sure is going to be loose in the back. I'm going to be all over the place. Well, Nisha says, no, Robert, you've been running in sport mode, which is 30-70. So I'm explaining to the camera that now I'm excited today because I've got it in track mode. I want to try it out in sport mode because I thought most people who come are going to drive in sport mode, and maybe we'll let them go up to track mode once they're, really doing well. So today I'm excited to put it in track mode and see what it feels like in 50-50. I switch it to 50-50. This oversteer is gone, understandably, less torque to the rear, it's more balanced, and the car's driving perfectly. I have traction control on because the track is still at freezing temperatures. I'm on semi-slick tires. And as I'm giving steering input, I notice what feels like traction control kicking in because I give on the throttle and then it kind of bogs down a little bit and then it goes. And this is very normal, like when you drive a Ferrari. If you even think about turning the steering wheel, it pulls power. So I turn the traction control off. And right when I turn the traction control off, blah, the bottom falls out. Not literally, but there's no power left. Oh no, there we go. That's not good. You heard stumbling? I wonder what that's all about. It just bogs down. It's really misfiring. It's not really running that well. And I knew at that point, okay, we have a problem. Of course, I'm hoping at this point that this is an issue from Toyota. Maybe a coil pack has failed or something like that. But in the back of my mind, I suspect that this is all my doing. So I continue driving a little bit. Misha calls me and says, Robert, why'd you slow down? We have our watches connected to our phones. I said, yeah, reduced engine power, go ahead. Normally it's no man left behind, but in this case, go have fun. I'm just going to pull off the track and see what's up. So I decided that as I'm going, yeah, I'm able to do 80 kilometers an hour, but I'm really low on power. I think going down a hill, I hit 90, 95. But I'm coming up to the section of track where eventually it's a long run up to Hoa Oct, and I don't want to be the guy that runs out of power or the engine completely dies on me going up Kesselchen, which is a very fast and not a lot of runoff for me to park the car. So in Metzgesfeld, there's no cars around me. I decide, okay, the safe thing is to pull over, see if the old McLaren, turn it off and turn it back on will fix anything, trick will work, and we go from there. So I pull off the track. I'm getting off the track thinking, okay, I need to call the Nürburgring emergency line. I'm going to shut the car off. I'm going to restart the car and see if it comes back to life. And those bad 3 cylinders just fire back up and propel me on the rest of my lap. As I'm pulling in 3 kilometers an hour, the engine dies. It just shuts off. Okay, time to start looking for my phone and call the Nürburgring. But lo and behold, the Nürburgring service team or safety team, literally 10 seconds after I pull in, they come whipping by and pull in behind me, ask if I need a tow. I mean, it was perfect timing from their part. They've got crews that run around the track in pairs of 2. So it's usually no more than 5 minutes that a section of track isn't covered by one of their safety teams, which is really nice to know. And they were, to me, like I said, literally in 10 seconds. You'll see that in the video. It's pretty neat. So they come in, do you need a tow? Yeah, it's not looking good. It looks like I'm gonna need a pickup. They call Lenz, which is the tow company who's contracted to remove all the broken down cars from the Nürburgring. The tow company comes, they whip in, use the crane arm, pick it up, swing the car around. You can see me standing there taking pictures actually of the car as it's getting lifted up. And due to COVID, I get to ride on the back of the tow truck off of the track. So I climb up in the car and ride off the track. As we enter the track, you can see people are managing the situation very safely. They're driving around the tow truck. They're not racing by it. They're not going by in twos. They're going by really nice. I roll down the windows. I enjoy a little bit of the sound of TF, Porsches and BMWs going by from a whole new vantage point, really, which is up high on the back of a tow truck sitting in your own car. So this is a pretty cool place to go. I mean, it costs a little bit more than a taxi lap, but it definitely gives you quite the tourist advantage up here. Should I get on the brakes right here? I don't even know. I get a phone call. To my surprise, I see Daniel Lenz. He's the owner of the tow company. Hey, Robert, where do you want to go? Thank him for the taxi lap, that his guys are giving me and everything like that. So yeah, maybe if you guys could take me to Apex, that'd be great. Hi Daniel, wie geht's dir? Guten Morgen. Ja, ich bekomme ein Taxifahrt von deinen Jungs jetzt. He calls ahead. He tells the guys, yeah, Robert would like to go to Apex. And they take me straight to Apex, which is fantastic service. So Lenz, thank you very much. And again, thank you to the Nürburgring crew for being so prompt. We get back to Apex. And of course, Bora's got the Instagram stories running. Misha's got the vlog material going. What's up, Bora? You getting that content? When you have a car that's as in demand as this, you want to keep the kilometers low. Yeah. Everyone's ready to kind of give me a hard time, which I can fully accept. That's fine. We get the car off of the tow truck, take the selfies, take the obligatory pictures with the car up in the air, and we get to looking at it. We look at, first of all, take the spark plugs out. We see what's going on there. Once the spark plugs are out, we stick a bore scope. Well, first, what do we see? We see the 2 and 3 cylinders. Plugs look okay. The number 1 cylinder, the plug looks good. It's all in one piece, but it's very wet, a lot of raw fuel on it. So we know that's where the problem is. Stick the bore scope down in the cylinder. Cylinder walls look good. The top of the piston looks good. There's no visual damage, which means a valve didn't drop in, get crunched, and shot out the exhaust. So very positive in that regard. We then can see that we can crank over the engine without damaging anything further. So we actually then put the compression tester on it, crank over each cylinder, and we see that the number 1 cylinder has no compression at all. 2 and 3 look like they're as normal, so no issues there. We move along and we start checking ignition, basically take the coil off, put the spark plug in it. Each cylinder is getting ignition, so that means that it most likely has to do with the valve train. So what is it? Is it a bent valve? Possibly, but it's strange that a bent valve would show itself 5 laps later or 6 laps later. Could it be a rocker arm that broke? It could be. We could have that it got a crack in it. It ran good during the day. It got cold overnight. It froze. We warmed it up in the morning, and maybe that crack separated, and maybe you're going to find a rocker arm that actually has a crack and a bend in it. That could be a possibility. That, in my opinion, would be the best case scenario. Maybe an intake valve has a cracked rocker. I mean, that would be, for me, a really good situation. Could it be a valve spring that has broken? It could be, but normally you might hear a little bit more noise. You don't hear any noise when the engine is running that sounds out of the ordinary, no ticks. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this opportunity to learn from this. We're going to show you guys what the problem was. We're going to see if my prediction of maybe a bent intake valve rocker or intake rocker or even an exhaust rocker, but I would more anticipate it to be an intake, would be damaged, or is something else going on? What exactly happened? I, at this moment, am certain that it has to do with me over revving the engine. Obviously, it would be great for me if it wasn't that and it was some kind of mechanical failure from Toyota, but I just don't think so. I think that the coincidence of me having over revved the engine, this happening 5 laps later, probably leads more to a, would you say, self-made error versus a manufacturer-made error. We'll see what happens. I am going to take the car to Toyota. They don't have service manuals with the dealers yet, so they don't even know how they're going to start on it. So if they can't start on it, then I'm more than happy to rip the valve cover off because I want to see what it is if they can't get started on it right away. I'm not going to try and slide it in on some sneaky warranty nonsense. I think that that's not how we should do business. I'm going to tell them straight up, hey, this is what happened. I over-revved the car the day before, blah, blah, blah. And if they look, they'll be like, man, Tier 1 influencers, they probably sold 92% of all the Yarises for us. We're definitely going to fix this free of charge. I mean, that's what I would do if I was Toyota. But in all reality, I do expect a bill for it. And that's another thing. I'll be happy to share with you guys what the bill cost, what the damage was, and what the course of action is to repair it. Look forward to sharing that with you guys. Thank you for the support. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you have some ideas. Somebody actually said that they had read somewhere that the rocker arms could be a failure point on these motors. And this was after I made my assessment. And I said, well, this could be a symptom that matches that. And you know what? If a rocker arm was the first thing to fail in an over rev, that would be a very smart way to go because it won't send the valve down into the piston. It would break the rocker arm. I'd be happy to hear that. Anyways, more on that as the story unfolds. You guys are Tier 1. I appreciate everything. We'll catch you later.